Alright, welcome back, and I assume at this point that you have successfully logged into your account. You have successfully set up your profile by turning on all of your email preferences, and now we're going to move on to setting up a growth plan. And so the first thing I want you to notice is that there's a tab up here for growth, and we're going to go to that and we're going to choose plans. And when we get there, it's going to have a create a new plan button. And you can see that the steps are that we're going to take a self-assessment, we're going to select some target elements from that self-assessment, and then we're going to identify action steps. And then we're going to submit that for approval to put the plan into action. So the first part about taking the self-assessment, this is where the document that we've put out where it aligns the Danielson rubric, or 5 of the elements from the Danielson rubric, to the big 5. That document looks like this, and what you'll see is that the big 5 have been aligned with different components within the Danielson rubric, and you're going to do some self-assessment just on these 5. You can certainly do more elements from the Danielson rubric if you'd like, but we're not requiring that. We're trying to focus in on these 5 areas of the Danielson rubric for the purposes of getting familiar with iObservation, trying to narrow down the information a little bit. So I would suggest actually having a printout of this next to you, because as we get to a different screen, then you can have it right there with you as you work on this. So that is one of the things that you want to have with you. Another thing is this second page here where it describes what a SMART goal is, because when you get to some of the questions in setting your growth plan down into paper, some of the questions are going to be, it'll be helpful to answer those questions in a format like this, like a SMART goal, where you think about these things and how you word it. So have that document with you, and then we'll start working on this. So we'll click on taking the self-assessment, and when we see this, it's going to give you all the components of the Danielson rubric. And as I mentioned, we're only focusing on some of those, so I'm actually going to skip to those elements. So the first one that was on the alignment rubric was component 1E, which is strategies for college success. So as we look at this rubric element, I might take a look at some of these statements. Now, you might find that some portion of one of these boxes describes what you experience in your classroom very well, and you might find that another portion of this one describes you really well. For the purpose of this, you're going to have to pick a box that best describes you, and that might not be 100% accurate, but it's as close as the tool will allow you to get. So for this one, I'm just going to, for the sake of the example, this is not true of Ryan Johnson that you saw his name up there before, but I'm just going to go ahead and choose some ratings on some of these just so we can move through to the next phase of what we're going to do, so you can see how this works. So the next one is 2A, and so I'm going to choose proficient on that one. The next one is 3C. I'm going to get down to 3C, and I'm going to go ahead and choose basic just for purpose of the example. And then 4C and D are the last two, and I'm going to say proficient, and I'm going to say distinguished on the last one. For the purpose of this example. So I'm going to get down to the bottom now. If you wanted to spend more time on it, you could say save and close. You could say save as a draft, but I'm going to go ahead and say finish. Also, you could cancel it and it would wipe out whatever work you did, and you could start over on a different time. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this. It's going to say, are you sure you want to finish? I'm going to say yes. That's going to allow me to see that my self-assessment is done, and I can move on to the next phase, which is to select the target elements. When I open up the select the target elements, you can see that the ratings that I've chosen are included now on this screen. I've chosen proficient for that one, proficient for that one. Now there was the last one, 4D, that I chose distinguished. You can see on here that that does not appear. That one doesn't appear here anymore because I've chosen distinguished. It's not going to be a part of my growth plan because it would assume that I've accomplish that one and I need to focus my work on something else. So it's actually recommended that these two would be, one of these two would be what I would focus on. It will allow me to choose more than one, but I suggest only one. If I don't remember what that rubric was, 3C, and I didn't have it in front of me, I could preview it here, and it would show me the language of that rubric again. Or, if I'm ready to choose that one as my growth plan, I can go ahead and choose Configure. And when I do, it's going to walk me through the process here. I've currently said that I'm basic on this one. For some reason, it puts them in the opposite order, where Distinguished is now on the left. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the way they've designed it, I guess. So what achievement is my final goal? Where do I want to be after implementing my growth plan? And you see it only gives me the option to be either proficient or distinguished, so I have to move up. So I'm going to say I'm going to be proficient after I establish this. So then it's going to ask me some questions, and this is where the SMART goal thinking might come in helpful. This first question is saying, what are you currently experiencing in this area when it relates to engaging students in learning and the language in that rubric? What are you currently experiencing? And what do you want to see improve as a result of focusing on this strategy? So what would be the changes that you expect to see as a result of this? So it's digging a little bit deeper into the first question. So what do you want to see as a result of it? Then what changes are going to need to take place in order for you to see that result? When you get to this third question, this is where the SMART goal outline is going to be really helpful. Make it very specific on what actions you're going to do, when you're going to do them, how you're going to measure whether it's successful. So you go back to that SMART goal template. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. Is it per quarter? Is it per semester? Is it by the end of the year? When are you going to accomplish your goal? So you put all that information in there, and I'm just going to put some nonsense in there just so that it will see that I answered it, so I can move on to the next stage. Okay, so now it sees that I've selected this element 3C. I have configured it, and I can either remove it or I can edit it. I can go back in and change it. But I'm going to be done with that right now, and I'm going to go back to the plan. So you can see I'm done with taking the self-assessment. I'm done with the target elements. Now I'm going to develop a plan for growth. Once I do this, I'm actually going to break in the video because this video is getting kind of long, and then I'll come back